let's just dive right in. Today, we're going to get a complete, detailed, conceptual understanding of the Abbasid Caliphate. Honestly, this is the story of an empire whose brilliant innovations literally built the foundations of our modern world. So if you've ever wondered where algebra, the scientific method, or even early complex engineering came from, well, you have to understand the Abbasids. To truly wrap our heads around this incredible 500-year history, we're going to hit 6 main beats: the Abbasid rise to power, Baghdad as the round city, Harun al-Rashid's golden age, the House of Wisdom, the scholars of the empire, and finally, their tragic fall to the Mongols. All right, part 1, the Abbasid rise to power. So right after overthrowing the previous ruling dynasty, the Umayyads, the Abbasids kicked off this brand new era that actively embraced diverse cultures. Just look at how this timeline flows. We've got their rapid ascent in 750 CE, the building of their magnificent capital shortly after, and then zooming right into their soaring golden age in the 8th and 9th centuries, all before this really abrupt, devastating collapse at the hands of the Mongols in 1258 CE. The sheer scale of this empire was absolutely staggering. I mean, spanning all the way from Europe to India, its power was recognized by distant neighbors everywhere. You had the Chinese and Indians in the east, the Byzantines in the west. But you know what made them so successful early on? Even though they were Arabs, their main support actually came from newly converted Persians. They realized early on the immense value of different cultures, and they built a state on the absolute best knowledge from all these diverse peoples. Moving on to part 2, Baghdad, the round city. When the Caliph al-Mansur came to power, he ordered the heart of this massive empire to be built right between the mighty Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Built in 762 CE, the city's circular design was, well, it was an absolute architectural marvel. Just look at that geometry. And it wasn't just for show either. The design literally meant that each gate led directly to a corresponding city of the empire. It was a literal and metaphorical hub for the entire world. They actually originally named it Madinat as-Salam, which translates beautifully to the City of Peace, though it quickly became known by its local name, Baghdad. By absorbing the energies, the sciences, and the resources of both the East and the West, Baghdad grew incredibly fast. By 780 CE, it was the largest city in the entire world outside of China. It was known for efficient administration, social equity, and serving as this irresistible magnet for the globe's greatest thinkers. That brings us to part 3, Harun al-Rashid's golden age. By 786 CE, the empire was absolutely soaring under Harun al-Rashid. This is the iconic ruler whose legendary reign was literally immortalized in the Arabian Nights. Now, to truly grasp the incredible technological flex of the Abbasids during this time, consider this one historical exchange. The European Emperor Charlemagne sent envoys with presents like Spanish horses, wool cloaks, and hunting dogs, which, to be fair, was pretty impressive for Europe back then. But Harun al-Rashid, he responded with unprecedented luxury: silks, an actual elephant named Abul Abbas, ivory chess pieces, and most incredibly, a mechanical water clock. This thing dropped bronze balls into a bowl every single hour while mechanical knights popped out of little doors. It brilliantly illustrates just how insanely sophisticated the Islamic world was compared to Western Europe at the time. Part 4, the House of Wisdom. So, Harun poured vast amounts of wealth into places of learning, which paved the way for his son to create what was basically the intellectual epicenter of the world, Beit ul-Hikmah, or the House of Wisdom, right there in Baghdad. By 860 CE, this was the largest library on planet Earth. This was the site of the Great Translation Movement. Just imagine scholars working around the clock, tirelessly gathering the greatest works of science, medicine, math, and geography from Greek, Latin, Indian, Chinese, Syriac, and Persian sources, and translating them all into Arabic. They were literally saving the ancient world's knowledge from being lost forever. The Abbasids valued this knowledge so much that they really put their money where their mouth was. Highly skilled linguists like Hunayn ibn Ishaq, who was so incredibly productive they called him the sheikh of the translators, were paid an absolute fortune. We're talking an astonishing 500 gold dinars a month, paid by the caliphs just to locate and translate rare manuscripts. They even completely financed travel expenses so these scholars could scour the globe looking for lost books. Okay, part 5, Scholars of the Empire. Let's meet the intellectual avengers of the Abbasid Empire, the legendary polymaths whose discoveries you and I are quite literally still using today. Because what you really have to understand here is that these scholars weren't just sitting around reading dusty old books.
They were actively inventing the future. They generated hundreds of original texts on everything from medicine and astrology to meteorology, tides, and even earthquakes. They took ancient knowledge as a baseline and just ran with it to create entirely new fields of science.
Take the Banu Musa brothers, for example. They used the astrolabe, which is basically a complex medieval device that acted like an early GPS and computer, to calculate the length of a year down to exactly 365 days and 6 hours. Just those three brothers alone wrote over 20 books, including the Book of Ingenious Devices. That one text detailed 100 groundbreaking engineering inventions driven by water pressure, stuff like automated valves that opened and closed completely by themselves. This really puts into perspective just how incredibly concentrated this genius was. First, you have Al-Kindi. He introduced Indian numerals and the concept of zero to both the Islamic and Christian worlds, while also pioneering early cryptography using ciphers. Then there's Al-Khwarizmi, who literally gave us the word and concept of algebra from his book Al-Jab. He developed the algorithms that run our modern computers and calculated the Earth's circumference. And we can't forget Ibn al-Haytham. He didn't just study natural phenomena. He actually devised a method to test them repeatedly. Because of that, he is widely regarded as the father of the modern experimental scientific method. And finally, Al-Razi, a legendary physician who set up Baghdad's very first hospitals, authored 200 medical books, and was the very first person to distinguish between smallpox and measles just based on careful observation. But of course, we arrive at part 6, the fall to the Mongols. Every epic life cycle has to end, right? For the Abbasids, accumulating such massive wealth eventually led to a fractured state, leaving them completely and utterly unprepared for a terrifying threat growing in the east. When the final caliph Al-Mustasim received a threatening letter from the fearsome Mongol leader Hulagu Khan demanding control of the great city, Al-Mustasim tragically brushed it off. He didn't take the threat seriously at all, and he did almost nothing to prepare Baghdad's defenses. The consequences of that arrogance were swift, and they were absolute. In 1258, Hulagu Khan attacked. The Mongols completely sacked Baghdad. In just a matter of days, the political and cultural heart of the Islamic world was decimated. The Golden Age was ended, literally, in an instant. And the destruction wasn't just political, it was a profound human tragedy. The House of Wisdom was burned to the ground. The great treasures of knowledge, all of those incredibly rare translated manuscripts, centuries of medical breakthroughs, astronomical calculations, brilliant engineering designs accumulated over 500 years, they were all violently erased, just turned to ashes. And that wraps up our explainer, but I want to leave you with a chilling final thought. Considering that from this one single city, in this one single empire, we got algebra, the scientific method, hospitals, and early computers, where would humanity be right now if those ashes had remained books? Seriously, keep that question in mind next time you look at the technology around you today. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.